1, 2, 3. We are on the precipice of something very interesting in the Indian smartphone scene. Madhav Sheth, known for his work with Realme India, debuting Honor phones in the country and then helping Alcatel launch their new smartphones as a tech advisor, has now locked his focus on his new venture, AI plus smartphones. His first launch has two new smartphones, Pulse, a 4G device that aims to target the roughly 250 to 300 million 2G feature phone users in the nation. The second one is the Nova 5G. As the name suggests, it's a smartphone that aims at democratizing 5G in the country at prices 4,499 and 7,499 respectively. These phones will be among the most affordable devices in the Indian smartphone market. We had a chat with Madhav Sheth himself in the days leading up to the unveiling of these two devices, and here is what he had to say. I'll just start with a very simple question, even a layman question if you will. Why AI plus?
It's all about applied intelligence, which means that how can human help to use artificial intelligence in our day-to-day life in a better way.
Okay.
So it's about human plus artificial intelligence put together, where is applied intelligence. And AI plus is more about how we can connect humans more, which are more tangible in the sense, how can we have features which are more user friendly, which are for the day-to-day use, which can help there to be more efficient in day-to-day use in their own local languages. I think it's all about that.
Mr. Sheth, we all know that you built Realme from the ground up, right? And you moved on to
multiple ventures, yeah.
Multiple ventures, right? To name a few, HTech, then you joined the board of recently launched Alcatel phones, and now finally NxtQuantum AI plus smartphones. I want to understand the vision behind this venture and what you want to accomplish with it.
It's a very good question. I would just say one thing. There are multiple ventures, you ventured into it and you try to figure out that what are the technologies which are required in India, which are the prime importance for the consumers. Consumers are not bound by geographies. Consumers are bound by technologies. Their loyalties are towards the technologies. Their loyalties are towards something which is latest and which can be more user friendly. So my venturing into different aspect was more about technology transfers. While I failed in few, succeeded in few in transferring of technologies, and few of the other things were more about the brand's vision to come to India and not come to India. So all depend on that. Hence one thing which was very clearly figured out, that AI plus is something which I wanted to lead it myself. This is the only company where I'll be going to be the CEO of the company and I'll be running the company myself. While I'm also on the board, at the same time I'll be running the company itself. In all of the ventures, I've been onto the board for technology transfers, for supply chain helps and everything put together. But for this is something which I'm going to run brand independently and without the clutches of any of the foreign companies, being more independent and more sovereign towards the work process and being ethical towards the country. That's how it is.
During the briefing, you mentioned multiple times that you want to build an Indian brand which is global, a global brand from India. But that's the case for many other Indian brands. What differentiates you?
The most important thing is, one is having an aspiration, one is having a goal. I believe that India, it's at a juncture which China used 2010, where it's more not just of an engineering country or a manufacturing country, but it's a country where even brand can be established and go global also, because of the economies of the scale of the domestic consumption, economies of the scale of production, the capacity which we have, the investments, localization which we have, and the resource pool from the government and the support from the government. Putting all of this thing together, I believe that there's an opportunity for a brand coming out from India and scaling up globally. I'm not saying that probably other brands would not have tried it, but I believe this is the right time for people to venture into this thing and think about scaling up globally from India.
Could you elaborate a bit on the technology part in the soon to be launched AI plus smartphones?
AI plus smartphone is you and me, which is, what does I mean to say, is a phone which will help you to use your day-to-day phone or make your day-to-day life much more simpler, which means that it's a utility phone. It's a phone where there will be hell lot of 300 million consumers of 2G will be able to migrate to 4G or 5G phones, and they will get there's a huge digital divide in India. Why I say you and me is because while there's a huge digital divide between 2G and 5G in India, there is a huge white space also between this particular price points, which starts from ends at 2000 rupees, which is a 2G device, and 10,000 rupees, which starts a 5G device. There will be few devices at 8,000 rupees available for 5G, but they are just a non-standalone or standalone networks, but they're not a complete 5G phones. So how can you have a complete 5G phone with all network bands, ensuring that probably you can bridge the digital divide also? At the same time, how can you transit this 2G consumers to 4G and 4G to 5G? That's something which I'm trying to take a journey of it, which is a journey of a normal layman, where you get the best of the phone, best of the designs, best of the camera, best of the battery, and ensuring that probably there's a proper service to it. That's how it is.
Add a bit about the data sovereignty part, where you claim to secure the user's data.
I don't claim to, I'm doing it. So the most important point is, yes, we have built up a firewall in India, and we have ensured that probably we encrypt certain key information of the data of the consumers, right, which are not relevant to apps. How do we look into this particular aspect? There are more than 50 or 60% of the apps in the world which we download. We are not aware how the apps will be using your data, because if they are free, does not mean they are safe, which means, but they are probably using all your data, which may be your location, your biometrics, for any purposes, and they may be selling data for any purposes, which they might also not be aware of it, which we call is a marketing monetization money. So when this apps does, because it's for free, they have to monetize from somewhere. So the biggest way to monetize is to sell your data for a lot of free apps. While this becomes one of the key concerns, so what I want to do is to build up a firewall to ensure that probably the data of the user, which is extremely sensitive, is been encrypted within India itself, where even we cannot have the access to the data, and we'll be pushing to the server which are approved by the MIT on Google servers also, and which means that probably all your biometrics, all your data, there are 30 types of data which will be encrypted, and make sure that probably they are in India itself. So only users can access to it at the time of emergency. No one else can do that.
Your vision for the consumer tech in India, landscape in India, has always aligned with the Make in India and Digital India initiatives, right? It always has been. How is it that in the case of NxtQuantum and AI plus smartphones?
This is ground up designed also in India. Okay. The OS is built in India. The vision has been built in India. The brand itself is Indian brand, which is going to scale up globally. And I have already received inquiries from multiple countries to launch this brand already. So that is the vision which I envision for AI Plus as a brand, that there's an opportunity to scale it up globally, starting from India itself. I think that's what I think right now.
On the same lines, do you see the Indian ecosystem evolve to a point where manufacturers like you yourself can make a phone from end to end?
As I said, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And there was a journey from Japan to China which took 30 years. China to India will take another 20-30 years. Let me give a very small example. Taiwan took 40 years to what they are today. They started in 1970s, where they did not knew anything about the chipset. They started inculcating in the universities as a program from 1970 to 1980s, and the government pitched in, and that's what they are today, that every person in the technology industry in Taiwan or the university in Taiwan, they know how to do a fabrication of a chipset, because that is how it's been inculcated in last 30 or 40 years. So it is a journey, and the journey has to begin from somewhere, and I think as in India we are on a right step to move forward on that. As this was a metaphor and an example that how the countries migrate, where the countries do not have any experience of chipset, going to one of the most chipset experienced country in the world. In 1970s, 1980s, if you go back to the history, Taiwan was only exporting maybe some shoes and some fruits. From that to become a semiconductor industry, it took them 30 to 40 years. So it's a journey, and that journey, the first step is always like what we have taken in last 5-7 years.
Circling back to the phone itself, during the briefing you mentioned the processor of the phone. Why not go for a more known name like MediaTek or Qualcomm? What
is more important for a consumer? Performance. Performance, N2 scores, performance. What if I take, I'm not debating that the names which you take are not reputed. They are very good. I was the one who launched MediaTek chipset P60 in the industry back in 2018. So I'm aware of that. But the point is, I also look at the consumers with the camera performance, with the AI integration into it at that particular price point, that N2 scores, which is the best one which I can get for the consumer preference. It should be a brand name, or it should be a name which can give them the best of the performance at that particular price point. And that is what we have chosen, which gave the best of the performance, because the T8200 has the latest AI capabilities, bringing to the 5G chipsets also, which brings that it is affordable, at the same time it can go to the masses also. That is the reason. So you also have to see that is that chipset at that particular price point able to handle the capabilities of what Android 15 will also be able to support it. One is your chipset should be able to support Android 15. I am giving the latest Android 15 out of box. At the same time, will your chipset be able to support that particular thing or no? That is also extremely important. And I have to ensure that the consumers get the best of the prices out of it, with the best of the performance at that particular price point, which means there should be no lag, no bloatwares, best of the camera, very good battery life, which is 7 days non-stop. And how can I give them the best of the performance with the 3.5mm jack not being compromised on it?
You mentioned that, your phones have the best features. All right.
At that price point, yes.
At that price point, of course. And you also mentioned multiple times during the briefing that you want to think from the consumer's perspective, right? Your phones are priced in the 4 to 10K bracket, right? And again, in your own words, those consumers have merely 2 to 3 queries: how's the phone's performance, phone's camera, and how does the phone look, right?
Yeah.
How do you educate those consumers who are in the tier 2, tier 3, and even in the rural areas that your phone is offering better features than the already established names in the market like Realme, like...
First of all, let me answer this question in a reverse way, that none of the phones are fully baked phones sub 10K. When I say fully baked phones is probably you do not have a RAM-ROM, a proper RAM-ROM, which is, I have a RAM-ROM starting from 4GB itself with a 4GB expandable one, which is 8GB RAM, and about ROM as well, equivalent supporting it, 128GB or 64GB ROM. What does that mean? And 1TB expandable at that particular price point, which no one has given. Why do you need this? Is because today's time, when you have the latest apps, they need more space to function. When you have a 2GB phone or a 3GB phone at that particular price point, they will not be even able to function that type of apps. And with that, what happens is your phone starts lagging around, which means that probably a lot of consumers in India won't understand it because of the RAM-ROM. They would only understand the phone is slow at that price point. Hence, they want to migrate at a bigger price point phones. But it is all about RAM-ROM, having a better storage capacity for your apps to function better. And that is what we given up to 1TB expandable at even a price point which is below 5,000 rupees.
How many OS updates are there?
Yes, definitely. We are having Android 15 out of the box. Right. There will be regular security patch updates, always following it up.
How would you describe the current Indian smartphone landscape? I know I came late in the briefing, and at that moment you were very in detail explaining how the market works. But yes, in your own words, how would you describe the current Indian smartphone market, and what's the big picture for AI plus smartphones?
I think current industry in India is controlled 80% by Chinese smartphone market and 20% by other. There is no Indian brand. That's point number one. Point number two, it's more of a monopoly market. For consumer, it's not about which country these brands are belonging to. For consumer, the latest tech is what matters to them. So giving them the latest tech is extremely important. At the same time, when you asked about this current landscape of the industry, I believe it's more of a monopoly or duopoly market, where the market size is more than 5 lakh crore rupees, but it's like a more of a monopoly duopoly in sub 15K, 20K price points. The reason, because one group may be holding 4 or 5 brands in India with the different names. They're all selling the similar phones, but just with the different names. Just changing the back panels and changing it across and having a different GTM strategy across it. This is the current landscape of the Indian industry at this point, at this stage. I believe that needs to be broken over a period of time, and I hope the consumers have been educated to understand that just a different GTM strategy does not mean there probably is a different product or a different quality product or a different brand, because it's coming from the same group, same R&D, everything put together. It's just different, relabeled it in a different and packaged in a different way. I think that's what the consumer needs to understand today.
You believe the consumers will be open to change?
The price point, hence I never started with a price point which is about $500 or 30,000 rupees, 40,000 rupees, because what I believe is 25,000 and above is something where the brands sell. The utility product is about below 25,000 rupees, and I am trying to get into the utility price points and democratizing it. Democratization is one of the key factors which I am looking into it. So I am starting with the sub 10k price points, where I am launching 2 devices for the masses, right? Where I believe that probably the adoption is not towards the brand, is towards the utility and the how this phone will function in a particular situation.
Right.
And I think I am able to give the best of the product at that price point. That's what I believe, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Sheth, for this insightful chat. Thanks.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Great talking to you. Thank you.